following is a paid advertisement program provided by Premier Investments and Wealth Management. An airing of the program is not to be considered an endorsement or recommendation. The views and opinions expressed are those of the hosts, guests and callers and not necessarily of this station or iHeartMedia. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. The information in the following program should not be construed as an offer to sell and is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified tax advisor or legal counsel.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Premier Investments and Wealth Management Financial Program right here on your radio worldwide via the free iHeartRadio app and on YouTube. Third time I've sung. Premier Investments and Wealth Management website is premieriwm.com. I'm going to tell you more about that, but get your browser up and go to premieriwm.com. I'm going to give you some more instructions here in a second. Before we go there, new sheriff in town, his name is Elias Randall. He's Vice President and Wealth Advisor at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. Hello to you, Elias.
Hello, Doug. You gonna start calling me Mr. Vice President?
Mr. Yes.
I would appreciate that.
Okay. Well, if I got to call Casey Doctor, so yeah, I think that'll work.
Are you
Mr.
calling
Vice
him
President,
Doctor now?
Well, yeah, he requires me to.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, he does.
Does he?
It used to be Esquire, but then he decided that the doctor makes it sound better.
I mean, he earned it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. That other voice, that other face,
Yes, he
that's
did.
Roger Abel. He's an accredited investment fiduciary with over 21 years of experience in the investment industry. He's president of and wealth advisor at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. Everybody knows him as Roger. I know him as the Big Kahuna. Hey, Roger.
How are you today, Doug?
Fabulous. Fabulous. Good to see you again.
Good.
Glad everybody's got your browser open, whether it's on your phone, your tablet, your laptop, or maybe you're sitting at your desktop listening to or watching this. Open that browser, premieriwm.com, click on Get Started. From there, you just answer a couple of questions, and they will provide for you at Premier Investments and Wealth Management a one-page Premier Vision document. You're thinking to yourself, one page to figure out my finances for retirement, one page to figure out my finances for my kids' education, or maybe I want to have a beach house up in the Iowa Great Lakes or maybe down in West Texas or somewhere in between. You know what? There's a lot of things that are contained behind the scenes in that document, isn't there, Roger?
Yeah, I think many times when we say one page, people view that as not much.
Mm-hmm.
But what it really is us dissecting the 100-plus pages of a financial planning document and breaking it down into the areas that we found that people are most concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
When can I retire? How long will my money last? How much can I spend? How much risk do I need to take to accomplish my
Right.
goals? And that's really what most people want to know. Am I okay? I had an individual who came in earlier today, and it was just for a quick review.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to run some scenarios. She wanted to retire. Well, I didn't know that's what she wanted to do, but I pulled up the financial planning software, made sure the numbers were right, and just showed her, hey, here's your probability of success doing it at 60. She was, okay, great. And she was ready to walk out. She didn't need to know, what kind of oil I'm putting in the engine or what kind of spark plugs I'm doing or, what the gap on the spark plug was. She just wanted to know, hey, I know you're taking care of us. Put it into a really simple to understand format, and that's what we do with that one-page plan.
That's awesome. That makes sense, too. And the nice thing, too, is that on that one-page plan, in addition to all the other stuff, it actually has next steps for you. What do I need to do? What's my next thing that I have to do? What are my deliverables to make this come true, this financial future? So go to premieriwm.com, click Get Started, and fill out that information. They'll contact you to make an appointment for free, no obligation consultation. Here's the other thing, though. If you want to make the appointment now and just say, you know what, I'm ready to make the plan, what's the phone number, Roger?
800-383-6590.
Gotcha. I just turned 57, gentlemen. I know I don't look a day over 70, but it's important for me to start thinking a little bit more seriously about retirement, even though I don't plan on doing so. Because one thing I found out from all y'all is that most people, they say, I'm going to retire at X age. They end up retiring considerably earlier because of health or other considerations that are out there. So we have 6 financial and investing considerations for retiring before age 60. So does this mean that you need to start getting this done before you reach 60, or if you're going to retire before you're age 60?
Well, specifically talking about retirement age before 60 years old.
Okay.
And a couple things. Well, if you want to retire before 60, you're going to have to start putting some things in motion many years before that.
Right.
Now, I will say there are folks that we have helped transition to retirement that are in their mid-50s, and they just had no idea that they could retire.
Yeah.
So that's a really good first step. If you feel you've done a good job saving, you have very little debt, but you don't know whether you're working because you need to or because you want to,
Yeah.
Premier's a good place to go to figure out, can I actually be done?
Can I ask you, what did it feel like for you to be able to tell them that they could retire whenever they wanted?
Oh, so one of the best stories I have, which this was great. So they were referred to Premier by a current client.
Yeah.
They come in and after the second meeting, it's a series of at least 3 meetings, but the second time we're getting together, and I kind of just told them, I really think everything's going to work out. When you come back, we'll talk through why I believe that. But so the husband, he goes, oh, I'm going to go into work Monday and give him my retirement date then. I said, just wait a second, come back next week and let's go through the plan, and then you'll be 100% confident in your decision. But I knew he was going to do it anyway, just kind of getting to know him.
Yeah.
So he turned in his retirement date before he ever even saw the results of his plan, because I already told him this is going to be favorable for you. And they're not even 60 years old. And then the other thing he did was he turned in his company cell phone too. So he gave him a retirement date, gave him the cell phone, and then the next time I saw him, he goes, yeah, they don't even know how to get a hold of me anymore. And that was an example of a couple that great savers, great investors, no debt, plenty of money to retire.
Yeah.
But they've never gone through that exercise with someone, and they didn't know how much money they needed to retire.
It gave them that freedom, and for you, it was probably like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This is great stuff.
Yeah, so basically for them, they went from not knowing to then retiring about 3 weeks later.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Item number 1 of these 6 investing and financial considerations for retiring before age 60, Roger, is building a robust savings plan. You say you got to think beyond the 4% rule. What's that?
So 4% rule in general is the number that's thought about as a rule of thumb that you can withdraw from your accounts and have a sustainable income for as long as you're around. I think the thing to recognize if you're going to retire before 60, rules of thumb probably get thrown out the window. And I'm going to tackle 2 of them. I'm going to do 1 and 2 here because I think they go together. But you're really going to need to figure out how much money you need to live on, then build a very detailed distribution strategy around it. And what I mean by that is you should be thinking about your money in terms of needs, then wants, and then wishes. So needs are, this is what I need to survive.
Right.
So healthcare cost, all those things are in there. This is what I need to survive. This is what I want to do for sure in retirement.
Okay.
And then here's the wishes that if everything's awesome, I'd like to do this. And when you do that, that's how we can categorize it in a financial plan and really dial in how much money you can take out. Okay. So that's first thing. But if you just use the 4% rule of thumb, that may or may not work out for you because you're going to have so much money saved up to make it last for 50 years. If you retire at 55, you're going to need it for 40 years, maybe 45. So that's the first thing. The second thing, or the second number on here, is diversify your investments. Don't rely on stocks. This is where rules of thumb can go out the window. A lot of people say, well, I'm 52. I should be mostly in the stock market. Well, but if you're retiring next year, maybe not. So what we like to do is quantify risk capacity for people. How much risk do you need to take to be successful? Not how much you think you should have, or, I'm 52 years old retiring next year. I can handle risk. Let's figure out what you need to have and throw the rules of thumb out the window. I think that's what becomes dangerous in retirement, is just not having a customized plan. It's why we do the Premier Vision document. It's why we make everybody do a financial plan. We want to provide customized solutions for people so that they get great outcomes versus just
an outcome. Yeah, I still like that.
I think along with that, because sometimes we see that people get too conservative too early in their investing career. I think another thing to maybe consider, so like if you're going to retire early retirement age, like 55 or something, and you have that long time horizon, you also don't want to be too conservative either, which lends to having the financial plan helping you define your risk. Because if left to your own decision, you might say, well, I'm retiring, so I need to be as conservative as possible. Well, you also, some of those dollars still have to grow over time. So I think it can go either way. You can be too aggressive at that time, or you can get the other side of it and be too conservative at that time too.
Yeah, it goes to not one size fits all. Every single person where they need to be allocated differently depending upon their situation.
Right.
Well, maybe they have a pension. Maybe they have a Social Security check. Maybe one Social Security check's a lot higher. It's just so different for every person that we don't know where someone's going to fall in their risk capacity until we go through this whole process. And then that's how we start to build out their distribution plan. Instead of saying, oh, you get 4%. No, let's build a tailored distribution plan because everybody's goals are different.
Yeah.
I'll use this as an example. I have a couple that I work with, no kids, two really good pensions, good Social Security checks. They've saved a lot of money. They can't spend it all. They can't. They're not. They won't. They'll never spend all this money. And I told them, I said, well, why don't we try to spend or give away most of this money by the time we're 80? Like we've never really thought about it. And I said, well, you don't have any beneficiaries. Your pension and Social Security checks, they're like $200,000 a year.
Yeah.
Like that's less than you live on now. Just go enjoy this stuff. Give it to your church or your charity. So that's a totally different spending plan.
Right.
Then someone who's like, man, I have to have this thing last to 95, or I have kids I want to give the money to. It's really different for every single person. And that's why we just don't believe that you should rely on a rule of thumb. This should be very customized to your situation.
No cookie cutter approach at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. It's all tailored to your individual needs, whether it's individual as a single person, or maybe you're a couple, maybe you're divorced, maybe you're widowed, widower. Whatever it is, sit down with the people at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. They will walk you through a plan. Better yet, if you're sitting at your computer right now, go to premieriwm.com, click Get Started, answer a couple of questions. You'll get a one-page Premier Vision document from them and an invitation to sit down and meet. It's no obligation. You don't have to pay anything. It's just a conversation between you and them with that one-page document you can walk out with. PremierIWM.com or call 800-383-6590. Listening to the Premier Investments and Wealth Management Financial Program over the radio worldwide via the free iHeartRadio app, or maybe you're watching it on YouTube. Doug Wagner along with Roger Abel and Elias Randall. It's important to consider healthcare costs because if you're retiring prior to 60 and now lifespans are much longer than they have been in many, many years, you have a lot of health care to figure out between there and actual Medicare time frame. What, 65 is when Medicare kicks in?
Right, Doug. As you know, Medicare kicks in at 65. So part of retiring early is going to be bridging the gap on your health care cost. And there's a few ways to do that. I think if you're working like through a company that offers some sort of HSA plan, could start that early in your career, start saving some money.
Right. By
What's
the way,
that? You got a question?
I found this out 2 years ago. I wasn't even thinking about this until somebody from here said it to me. And I was like, are you kidding me? Let's go.
Triple tax free.
I know. Let's go. So I've already started that because I know what my my every year expectations are, and I manage that pretty well. Sorry for interrupting.
All
Please.
good.
All
good. Which that's a great thing to do.
Yeah.
And so Fidelity has this study that they do to kind of track healthcare costs. Retired couples over 65 years old will spend in the ballpark of $300,000 on healthcare costs for the rest of their life.
Wow.
So it is something you need to plan for, right? If you have an HSA, take advantage of that. Now, the other thing you're going to have to know, so if you're 55 and you're going to retire and no company benefits available, you're going to have to go to the private market to get some health insurance.
Okay.
So you'll have to know, what the options are. I think you're probably best served working with a health insurance professional to help make those decisions. But that's something you're going to have to consider and work into the retirement budget. We're talking about needs, wants, and wishes and desires. I think healthcare is probably a need.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you don't have to have it, so it's
Food,
more of a
clothing,
want.
shelter,
but
healthcare.
yeah, I consider it a need. Every
Yeah.
family needs to be protected from big catastrophic health events in their life. So you do need to work that into your budget.
Okay, that makes sense.
As you transition.
Makes sense.
Well, the neat thing, I think we mentioned in the previous show, if people don't know what the cost is, we're able to drag and drop health insurance into the financial plan, and the software goes and calculates it for the state you live in, what the premiums would be for individuals if you're going out to the marketplace or Medicare. It'll just automatically calculate it based upon your income and all the other factors. So you don't have to guess at this. Our software will do it all. I mean, people guess, well, I don't know, what's it cost?
Yeah.
Well, let's just figure more than you think, because health insurance always is. And,
And
schedule
working
it that way.
Yeah, and working just to keep health insurance benefits. If you can afford the cost otherwise, and I've asked people this, like, what would stop you from doing that? If you really want to retire, don't continue working just for the health insurance benefits. You can figure out other ways to make it work.
Well, you could, truth be told, if you've done the job you've wanted to do and you're to the point where you just don't want to do that, you want to do your true desire in life. So for me, Shields Fishing Department, I'm in. You can go work part-time and pay for the health insurance. There's ways to do it that don't require you delaying retirement. And I'm joking about, I really do like Shields Fishing Department,
exactly.
but I wouldn't work there.
No.
Doug, what about you? When you retire, you're going to continue being on the radio?
I don't know if I'd do that or I would take up officiating again.
Oh, there you go.
I
Come back
miss
into
that.
officiating.
Yeah, I miss that. I miss that quite a bit.
It'd be nice if you could
trying to get
actually
rid of-
make money doing it.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Are you trying to get rid of our host? Come on, man.
He's going to retire
We're gonna have
early.
him in a wheelchair
Yeah.
coming to the studio,
Yeah.
just pushing him in. Come
Exactly.
on, Doug.
Just you like
Well,
Captain
remember,
Pike.
we are his advisors, so we're just going to advise him to keep pushing.
Keep
on
You need
his
to keep
retirement.
working.
I don't think it's going to work out, Doug.
Well, let's talk about the fourth of the 6 financial investing considerations to consider before retiring. If you're going to retire before age 60, talk to me about Social Security. If I retire before age 60, how does that affect my Social Security, if at all, Roger?
Well, it really doesn't affect it. What it really affects is when you may start to draw it.
Okay.
So a lot of people who retire before 50 or before 60, they'll draw Social Security earlier.
Really?
They might take it at 62. Well,
They
may.
may.
They
depending
may.
on whether
You don't
they
have
need
to, but a
Yeah.
lot of people psychologically think about this. So let's
Yeah.
say you retire at 55. You've been living on your own money that you saved
Yeah.
for the last 7 years, and all of a sudden, oh, wait, I can get a paycheck from the government. People tend to want to do that
Okay.
and stop watching their investment accounts either stay the same or go down.
Right.
If you do that, though, just realize you're locking in the lower payment forever. And this is where having a good strategy put in place makes a lot of sense. And strategies can change. We've had situations where we've had individuals that retired early. I'm taking this at 62. And then they get to 62 and they're like, well, I have more money than my investment account that I had before. I don't really need it. And then they start to delay it because they see the benefits of, hey, if I live a long time, this benefit gets a lot higher. So you don't have to decide this ahead of time, but you should be thinking about it. Am I taking it early? Because if you take it early, it's a pretty good reduction in benefit if you go at 62 versus full retirement age.
And that's where the financial plan that you produce for people at Premier Investments and Wealth Management really makes sense. It's tailored to what your needs and your desires are. Like I said, needs, wants, desires. Do you have to take the Social Security early on? No, maybe not. But you don't know unless you sit down and actually have my friends at Premier Investments and Wealth Management figure out the numbers for you. Let them show you the numbers as well. PremierIWM.com. You can call for an appointment, 800-383-6590. Two more things that we need to have considerations if you're going to retire before age 60 as far as finance and investing. Elias, maximizing your tax-advantaged accounts and have taxable accounts. It's one of those things where I think a lot of people try to figure out ways to avoid the tax man. You're saying, you know what, can't always do it, so you got to figure out how to maximize both portions of it.
The only way to avoid taxes when you're making money, all those ways are really illegal. So just avoid paying them.
Don't recommend
right?
those.
Yeah, so
That's a good point. Someone asked me about this the other day. I'm like, well, if you've thought about it, they've already thought about it.
Yeah.
Like, if you think it's a good idea, someone before you's already tried to figure this game out.
Yeah, but let's talk about earlier retirement ages and accounts. So in general, your retirement accounts are subject to penalty if you take money out before 59 and a half.
Okay.
So a couple really...
So even if you retire, you got the tax advantage ones, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there are some ways to do it. After you're 55, there's a 72T rule, but that's a little complicated. We could do a separate show on that. But in general, you can't access your retirement funds until 59 and a half from your pre-tax account. So a couple simple ideas to work through. One, you could have what's called a taxable account or a non-retirement investment account. And all of the investments are available in every type of account. So it doesn't matter if it's 401k or taxable. They're just types of accounts. Right. Now, there's no tax benefits for a non-retirement account. You're going to pay capital gains as you go and realize gains in the account. But the beautiful thing is you could put $5 million in a non-retirement account today and 3 days later take it all out and no tax penalties or anything like that. Just taxes on the gains that you make.
It's available for you.
Yep.
It's that liquid bucket that we were talking about in the last show that Roger mentioned. Like, you want to make sure you have what you need in a liquid bucket like that.
A lot of times we just refer to it as the bridge account.
Okay.
Like, I have clients that they actually refer to this is my bridge account to retirement. So we're saving up enough money to get us, if it's 3 or 4 years before 59 and a half, they're accumulating enough money in this bucket to live on and not have to worry about doing, financial maneuvering with their IRAs using 72T calculations and all these other. They're not hard. They're just very restrictive.
Right.
So just the non-retirement bridge account is a good way to think of it. Yeah. How do I bridge the gap to 59 and a half? You have to have a plan.
Yeah, bridge account. That's a great way to think of that. I think another place that's not as common to think about, but people should consider your Roth accounts.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is, okay, Roth, you pay your taxes today, you put the money in, grows tax free. There's another piece of that. Before 59 and a half, everything that you contribute into the account, otherwise known as your cost basis. Okay. So all of your contributions into the account, you can take back out without tax or penalty. So the growth in the Roth is subject to tax and penalty before 59 and a half, but not what you put in. So if you're 25 and you put max contribution into a Roth IRA until you're 50, well, there's a lot of money that you can access to help bridge again to 59 and a half. And I think just kind of order of operations, if you think about, what account should I do? I think if you have a Roth and a non-retirement account, there's really no reason not to hit your max on the Roth because of the tax-free growth, if you can do it, whether it's 401k or Roth IRA. You want to make that a priority because of that simple rule right there.
Right.
And it lends itself to we always talk about diversification between stocks and bonds and cash. This is diversification between account types. Yeah. And the more options you have, not just retiring before 60, but the more options you have with different amounts of money in different buckets to withdraw from, you can really help control your taxes later on in retirement. So it becomes a strategy that's not just about 59 and a half. It's, I'm bumping up on a new tax bracket. Do I really want to take it from the IRA, or would I take it from somewhere else to save 10% in taxes?
Right.
And I think people don't rationalize why they should have this non-retirement or this bridge account. It's to give you choice and option. In capital gains, if you're in the 15% or I guess the 12% tax bracket today, if you're in that tax bracket, you don't pay any capital gains tax. So it's not really detrimental to have the non-retirement account.
Makes sense. The sixth and final financial investing consideration for retiring before age 60 sort of plays into that. And it felt like we were edging toward that, what you call sequence of returns risk. And this is where, I mean, seriously, for me, have a financial professional take care of this. I was talking to somebody who paints homes for a living, and they were talking about some of the intricacies, some of the things that they have to do for shading and hewing when you go around a room and things like this. I'm like, I'd slap gray up on the wall. That's why I hire you, is do that. For something as complicated as investing for your future and making sure that you just absolutely don't punish yourself by having taxes and penalties taken out for screwing up the way that you withdraw funds. Talk to me a little bit about that, its importance, especially before 60 years old.
I want to back you up for a minute.
Okay. You
mean I'm not supposed to paint my own house?
Well, no, you can.
Should we tell them the story? We actually did do a paint project together, myself, Elias, and another friend of ours at my lake house.
Yeah.
And we had black trim.
Uh-huh.
By the time I was done,
black trim was white. We had a section.
Black trim and white walls.
See, there you go.
And my buddy's like, all right, you're fired. I was strictly put on food and drink duty.
Okay.
They just took me off the job like, you don't get a brush, dude. Like, I'm not a painter.
That's good.
But that's a good point. Like, it'll go back to what I've said for a long time, Doug.
Yeah.
You can get an outcome. The outcome was I turned my black trim white. So that's an outcome. Or you can get an optimal outcome, which is what we try to provide to people by doing the financial plan and then ultimately creating a sustainable withdrawal strategy. Mm-hmm. And, we hit on this a lot, but that's really how do we conquer this negative problem of sequence of return risk? And that's just getting unlucky.
Yeah.
Right. What happens if the stock market goes down 25% the first year I retire? Where am I going to get my money from? Well, this is why we have the bucket strategy. We build up our liquid bucket, which is 1 to 3 years of cash, our income bucket, which is 3 to 6, and then our growth bucket. And we're making people very less emotional about money. Mm-hmm. If somebody calls up, says the stock market's down 25%, what should we do? Well, we've quantified your risk capacity through the financial plan, so we have the right asset allocation. I've got you 2 years of cash, so who really cares if the market's down 25%? Mm-hmm. The only way people get hurt in down markets is by selling and getting out of the market. They locked in their loss.
Yeah.
So everything we do, we're literally trying to get someone to be less emotional and not make a bad mistake. Most of what we do is all psychological.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, picking good investments, that's not that hard. The difficult thing is all the behind the scenes work to get to figure out what the really good investments are.
Premier Investments and Wealth Management website is premieriwm.com. You can find out more about the bucket strategy there. You can make your appointment online, or you can even call. Elias, what's the phone number?
800-383-6590.
For Elias Randall, for Roger Abel, I'm Doug Wagner. We'll talk to you again soon.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Premier Investments and Wealth Management and LPL Financial do not provide tax advice. Please consult your tax professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. There's no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. All performance referenced is historical and is not a guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal. Consult your tax professional about eligibility to Roth and traditional IRA contributions. Contributions and earnings in a Roth IRA can be be withdrawn without paying taxes and penalties if the account owner is at least 59.5 and has held their Roth IRA for at least 5 years. This information is not intended to be a substitute for specific individualized tax advice. We suggest that you discuss your specific tax issues with a qualified tax advisor